Okay, so we're going to look at the parallax camera effect, creating a parallax camera effect, which is essentially objects in the foreground and objects in the background move at different speeds if you're moving past them. So the objects in the background move more slowly than the objects in the foreground. So we're going to simulate that effect. And you can see from this example, so if I just scrub the needle here, we've got the objects moving here. So this is kind of simulating a camera pan from left to right. And you can see that the trees in the foreground are moving past more quickly than the character in the midground, and they're moving more quickly than the objects in the background, which are the houses and the other trees. Okay, so you've got kind of foreground, middle ground and background all moving at slightly different speeds. Okay, so first of all, if you download the asset file, which will have the assets in, so it'll have all these objects, foreground, middle ground and background, and the sky and clouds in the far background. Okay, so I'm just going to, now these are all movie clips, so they're all grouped as inside a movie clip separately, the different objects on different planes. Okay, so each of the trees, the character and the houses are all separate movie clips. Now when we're working in 2D, we're working on an X and Y axis, so Y vertical, X horizontal. We're going to introduce a Z axis, which is into space, that makes things turns things from two-dimensional plane to three-dimensional space. Okay, so I'm going to start by selecting the houses which are in the background. When we select them, if we go to the properties panel on the right here, and you can see where we have 3D position and view, we've got the Z axis here, and we can change the position of the houses on the Z axis there. So we want them fairly far in the background. We're going to put them at about, say, 750. So that's basically moving them along the Z axis. Okay, we'll then move to the character who's in the midground. So again, he's on the Z axis here at 0 at the moment. So again, we can adjust him as we see fit along the Z axis. So he's in the midground. So I'm putting him at about minus 50, say. And then we select the trees, and they're right in the foreground. So again, a minus value into the foreground with 0, so 0 being kind of midground, anything plus without a minus in front of it in the background, and anything with a minus in front of it is in the foreground. Okay, we'll then create a new empty movie clip. So if we go to the library, click on the plus new symbol icon, and we're going to call this new movie clip scene. Okay, and then we're going to go back out of scene, which is empty at the moment. We're going to take everything, all the layers apart from the sky layer, so shift click on all the layers apart from the sky layer, right click, cut layers, double click, so go to the library, double click on the scene movie clip in the library, right click and paste layers inside there. We can select layer 1, which is just the default layer that was in there, and delete that. We don't need that, and you will see that we have all those layers inside here, inside scene. If we go back to the main timeline now, and we can now drag our scene movie clip from the library. Sorry, before we do that, we create a layer for it. So if we create a scene layer, so this is on the main timeline. Okay, an empty scene layer, and then drag our scene movie clip onto that. And you can see as I move this now, it's also moving. So it's moving along the XY axis, but it's also moving along the Z axis, all right, because these are all at slightly different points along the Z axis. Okay, I'm going to create the depth of field effect as well. So to do that, we need to double click on this scene movie clip to go inside it. I'm going to select the tree layer in the foreground, and we're just going to blur that a bit. So if we go to properties, and if we go down to filters here, click on the plus symbol, select blur, and then we can increase the blur. Okay, so blurring the objects in the foreground a bit. I'm also going to apply that effect to the houses in the background. So actually the only thing that's going to be fully in focus is our subject, which is the character. So if we select the houses in the background, again go to filters, underneath properties here, click on plus, select blur, and I'm not going to have that quite as blurred, but still reasonably blurred, slightly less blurred, that's fine. So we're creating this kind of sense of focus as well. Okay, if we then go to top right here, click on the arrow to the left here, that takes us back to the main timeline. Okay, and then I want to just move everything over to the right slightly, because we're going to pan from right to create a panning effect from right to left. So all the objects are going to move from here across to the left. Okay, we're then going to go to about frame 50, shift click. Okay, on both layers, press F5 to block out the frames. Right click on the scene layer, anywhere on the scene layer, anywhere on the frames on the scene layer, and select create motion tween. Move the playhead to the end of that tween and then move everything across to the left. Okay, that will automatically create a keyframe. If we scrub the needle, we'll see the motion tween in action. Okay, now if I select the 3D rotation tool, what we can do is we can rotate along the y-axis, and that will just give you a sense of how where these objects are placed in relation to each other now on the z-axis. So can you see how we've got the, sorry, it flipped around a bit there, but you can see the relative distance between them. Okay, I'll just rotate them back round. Okay, so we can simulate that effect of a camera panning from left to right and the relative speeds of the objects depending on which plane of the scene that they're on.